Cody Williams is one of the most interesting prospects in the 2024 lottery. While a great player in his own right, he hasn't been able to avoid the connection and the comparisons to his older brother Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, Cody Williams is by no means a highly touted prospect because of his brother. He's a phenomenal player and a higher rated prospect than Jalen ever was coming out of high school. With exceptional efficiency and an NBA-ready build and athletic profile, the range of opinions on Cody Williams range from major believers who believe he truly is a great player, could be better than his brother and a shot to go top 3, to doubters who think his brother's reputation has driven him much too high, and he should be borderline lottery at best. Where does he actually stand? Should he be truly a top 5 prospect, or is it true that he's gotten overhyped? Today, we're going to look at the pros of his game, the cons, and try to determine what kind of prospect Cody Williams truly is. So with all that, let's get right into it. Still on shooting, Cody Williams' shooting is, in my opinion, good but a bit deceiving. I think he isn't a bad shooter, and he's shown the ability to knock down shots pretty consistently. His percentages bear that out, as throughout the year he finished with a 41% mark from beyond the line. The results certainly are strong. Taking that into consideration, his volume is very low as a shooter. He made less than a single 3 per game and took less than 2. He isn't the type of player to hunt his shot. If he's open, he'll take it, but if not, he isn't thinking about it. Which to me is a bit concerning if you're winning a high-end, high-ceiling player in the lottery, due to the fact that in the NBA, you're almost never going to get that easy shot. 1, the 3-point line is further away, and 2, there's much less time to get the shot off at the pro level. Both of these things need to be taken into account, as well as the fact that he wasn't much of a 3-point shooter in high school. While playing in the EYBL, he only made around 20% of his threes. The full college year is enough of sample size that one could assume he's just improved a bit as a shooter, and for what it's worth, his brother wasn't much of a shooter until further into his development, but as of now, I'm not convinced that he's as knocked down as his percentages say he is. I think when he gets to the NBA, he'll probably settle into the mid-30s for percentage and potentially improve it to a higher level in the future. I just don't think he's as pro-ready of a shooter as some people seem to think. He's got good mechanics to build off of, so I see it as something he can develop, but I wouldn't go as far as saying he's a 3-point specialist right now. Seems like more of a down-the-line sort of thing for him, though making 41% of threes in a year is never a negative. Shot creation is also not something that's quite there yet for Cody Williams. Maybe he develops it, who knows, but as of now, the only thing that he can really claim as a shot creator is a pretty sharp handle and decent quickness for a forward. He just looks stiff on any pull-ups or step backs that he takes. I don't see him as a player who's going to be regularly shaking defenders on an isolation and knocking down a pull-up jumper. Now, his weakness as a shot creator is partially the skill set, but it's also, in my opinion, his aggressiveness and desire to take over a game. I consider having a scoring mentality a big part of a player's shot creation game, and I didn't see that take over the game mentality from Williams much at all this year. Now, I didn't watch a ton of Colorado throughout the year, but I caught all their March Madness games, and I found myself frequently thinking that Tristan da Silva or KJ Simpson were the best players on the court, not Williams. Now, obviously, Williams wasn't a starter, and da Silva and Simpson were upperclassmen, and Williams was a freshman, but you hope to see your potential lottery picks have more aggression as a shot creator in those big moments, and he almost always deferred and or stood in the corner while the other two went to work. Is that just because at this point of their careers, they're just better as shot creators than he is? Probably, but if you look at the other elite prospects, you were seeing them leave their mark at the game, even as freshmen, in searching for their shots. Stephon Castle, playing on a much better team, regularly made his presence felt. Even if he wasn't always the #1 option, you could tell he was out there and he was making things happen. Rob Dillingham made his presence felt. Even someone like Jared McCain knew when to take over too. Often, Williams shied away from bigger moments. Now, this too can come with time, work, and experience, but his bag of moves is a bit too shallow, and his scoring mindset not yet strong enough for me to call this a positive in his game. Now, as a finisher, Williams is quite strong. He regularly impressed me with his ability to work his way into the paint and finish over defenders. He does, like I mentioned, have a strong handle and an effective crossover, and he does use that well in conjunction with his height and length to get to the rim with regularity. He mixes in a variety of finishes with either hand and can either dunk over the top or finish off the glass or on a floater in the paint. I see this as the scoring skill he will likely lean on as he enters the NBA. As like I said earlier, it's possible his shooting isn't up to par immediately upon entry. His likely initial role is probably going to look like something of a rim running point forward who can play some solid defense, and I can see him earning good minutes in that role early on. Williams projects as a solid playmaker. That's the main reason I see him in some degree of a point forward role early on. His vision has impressed me on multiple occasions, as his ability to find open teammates anywhere on the court, both in the half court and on the fast break, gives me good confidence in his ability as a playmaker. He delivers a good pass and moves the ball well within an offense. Even if Williams doesn't end up as any degree of a point forward type that's tasked with having the ball in his hands frequently, he still makes sense in an offense as a connecting piece. He's the type of player that's going to swing the ball to the open man as opposed to forcing his own shot. He's a very unselfish player, to a fault sometimes, and sometimes you think that he needs to pass less, but overall his playmaking is a positive and definitely gives teams a reason to have him on the floor. He passes guys open and is a good team player. Williams defends at a high level as well, which really lends to the idea of him as just a generally well-rounded prospect. He's not terrible at any one thing, and he does a lot of things well. Defense is one of those things, and probably other than his finishing is his most pro-ready trait. He's an aggressive defender, he's athletic, he's got good length and good quickness. This all makes him incredibly versatile as a defender and very switchable in general. He ends up switched onto a guard. I have confidence he can stick with him. He obviously naturally guards forwards, so that should be no problem. The only position I feel as though he shouldn't be guarding are big post-up fours and centers. He has the height to stick with some, but not the strength. He's listed as weighing 180, which it shouldn't have to be said, is very skinny. He's shown some issues sticking with stronger bigs, so you would just want to see him add a bit of bulk to his frame over the coming years to better guard those more traditional back to the basket type players. Williams is kind of a hard prospect to find a comparison for because he's got a bit of a strange conglomeration of skills he's decent at with not any one elite signature skill. I think probably the best comp is one that's been made in Jaden Daniels, a long defensive oriented forward who's really switchable and does a good job of finishing around the rim and has some degree of offensive game, but isn't a #1 offensive option. Personally, I think McDaniels is a great player. If you told a team at the 8th to 10th pick that they could draft Jaden McDaniels, they'd almost certainly do it. For that reason, if Williams meets this comparison, it's a success for him. In conclusion, I like Cody Williams as a prospect. I think he's got a nice, solid, well-rounded game in a lot of areas. What I don't personally see that a lot of people seem to be seeing is his high-end upside. It just isn't there for me. He doesn't have that one standout skill or insane athleticism or absurd production that makes me think he's going to be just a superstar level player at any point in his career. I think what you're looking at for a realistic ceiling is a high-level starter on a good team, the type of guy that operates as a fantastic connecting piece within an offense, whether it be making spot-up threes around the perimeter or playing solid defense on multiple positions. He projects as a bit of a jack-of-all-trades, Swiss Army knife type player in the league. Now, let's keep in mind, even if that type of player never becomes a star, they still often provide crucial minutes in the league and usually draw a good salary on free agency market because great 3-and-D type wings are the most coveted role players in the league. If Williams 3 does prove to be legitimate and his defense holds up, that's the type of player he's most likely to be. Even though I don't personally buy his superstar ceiling, that doesn't mean it can't happen. I've watched too much basketball to ever definitively declare that any prospect is going to bust or is going to be a star. You just can never know that for certain, ever. And if you think you can, you're lying to yourself. Even someone like a Victor Wembanyama, who seems like a sure thing, could still end up being a bust if something like injury issues begin to happen. But you can look at the traits, you can look at production, and you can look at the play style and make a good prediction. And from where I'm at now, I don't see high ceiling for Williams. I see high floor, probably lower ceiling type player. He looks like one of the safest picks in the lottery, and that's extremely valuable, especially for teams that already have an established young star they hope they can become their leader. I like Williams' fit in the range of 6 to 9. Charlotte, Portland, San Antonio, and Memphis all have players who they hope to project as future superstars. So someone like Williams could come in and be that really solid all-around wing that's maybe a third option when the team that selects him tries to make it back into contention. And with all that, we conclude this video. I appreciate you all watching this one. Whether you agree or disagree with my analysis here, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed. Hey, thanks again for watching this video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click on one of these videos here to see more.